All right, we're here with episode 10 of It's Server Time. Hope everybody's having a great, happy holiday. This is going to be more of a year-end recap, a wrap, I would say. And so we're bringing it back home with the original three co-hosts, myself, Mix, and Note. And we're going to be giving our takes on a couple of just our favorites of the year. Some top threes, some top players, top teams, but we're going to put a little spin on it. I think we've all heard the conversations and the answers for who is the best player of the year, and we're not necessarily just trying to have another simple versus Zywoo debate. We're trying to talk
let's talk about that for 30 minutes. That'll be exciting.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think anybody really wants that. I think everybody has their opinions at this point. Everybody has their takes, and let's make it a little interesting. So let's start off with our top three favorite players to watch of the year. And let's start with Mix.
All right, number one, I feel like most people will agree with this, is Art. Art just fucking, I just love how ballsy he plays, just doesn't give a fuck. I just love seeing someone just fully commit to that type of style. Elige is still like probably my second favorite to watch. I just love like between his mechanical skill and like how smart he plays, and overall he's always just been one of my favorite players to watch, and that hasn't really changed. And my third favorite player, man, I don't know. I feel like that's a tougher one. Maybe I'll go with Shiro. That's Shiro. Maybe that's been a fun one to watch this year. Kind of seeing him really like live up to kind of like the potential that we've all kind of talked about him and heard about him, and I really just like seeing him do well.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about Shiro later. At least I know I will. But the way he just puts Gambit on his back at times is so fun to watch. Like he has like the right blend of aggression and just consistency, and he's really sharp with pistols on top of that too. So
yeah,
it feels like
I remember last year at IEM New York when they played like that MSI event before the grand final or whatever, and I think Shiro was like Gambit versus like
against Riot Squad. No, they played. I know they played Riot Squad. At one point. It wasn't the finals though.
On the stage though, they played like some like random European mix. I forget who it was exactly. And I just remember Shiro going off for like 35 kills or something, like exactly what I wanted to see on LAN on the stage. I was like, dude, I love this guy. Like, I'm so excited to keep watching him.
Yeah. All right, Note, who's your top three favorite players to watch?
I think Art's honestly a given for anybody this year. I feel like just with online, there's a lot of I found the aggressive styles a lot of fun to watch. So for me, I had like Art simple just because he can employ his style, but it's also just like he makes genuinely smart decisions. So it's just really fun to watch him like use his aim to work himself out of the situations where he rarely makes a mistake as well. And then for me, it was like a toss up between Yakinder and Grim. Grim, because I thought Grim was a lot of fun to watch because it was like his first year playing against like top teams in Europe, especially recently. So watching him sort of break into those sort of that echelon of CS and see him play against some of those teams was a lot of fun to me.
Okay, I'm gonna go with mine. So I'm actually gonna say Stown was one of my favorite players to watch on Heroic. I felt like he developed so much in the last 2 years that this year I feel like he made a really big leap. Where I would say before this year he was probably the best player on Heroic, and now I would say he's definitely the best player on Heroic because he bails them out of so many different situations. He's their secondary opper, and at times I feel like he's legitimately better than Cadian actually. Overall, I feel like he does a great job. Basically, right now, if there's anybody on Heroic whose demo you want to watch to learn how to play the game better in any facet, Stown is just an ideal player. He's good at aggressive stuff, passive stuff, late round situations. He can be a support guy, or he could just be the entry guy. I've seen him do it all this year, and I think he's really key to Heroic's success that they've had this year. My second favorite player to watch has been Xantarez, because there's something about him where I feel like when you watch him, also, it's like he's in this like wolf hunter mode all the time where you just see like he cares so much about his crosshair placement all the time. Like he's like one of those players that just super smoothly just tracks the headshot level of the entire map all the time. And
if he's like right next to his monitor, doesn't he? So
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it just feels like he's always honed in. Like he's this ideal aimer player. And even though I think his decision making isn't always perfect in like tense situations, like the fact is that he's always going to take the duel. If he doesn't know what to do, he'll just swing, and that just makes him fun to watch inherently, even if it's not correct. And my third is actually Bubsky when he was on Mad Lions. I don't care for the Astralis Bubsky at all. I think it's pretty bad, actually. I haven't liked anything about him on Nuke, but on Mad Lions, he was the guy that just anytime they threw a strategy and it was a 3v3 situation and someone had to make a hero play, it was always Bubsky. And I really wish we got to see a lot more of that this year. And I think that we're not going to go over roster moves, but I think one of the worst roster moves of the year was him leaving Mad Lions, because this just like it was a match made in heaven with him playing such a like systematic style and then him leaving, especially with them having Peacemaker now. And I mean, they've had him before, but he just works so well in the Hunden Remnants Peacemaker kind of style. I loved it, but
yeah, kind of along those lines. It's like someone you kind of reminded me of. Actually, a couple of people, especially like early in the year, was like Shush on Mad Lions. Like the first like 3 or 4 months or so, I thought he was a ton of fun to watch. And when we played Mad Lions in Flashpoint 1, I felt like he was their best player. Like he was just kind of like one of their role players almost, but was just fucking farming, and he was just so good, just so on point. And another person that I really enjoyed watching this year was Kusta, especially also early in the year when he was quite literally carrying Gen G. He had like a 1.20 rating or something, literally playing like all the bitch spots and stuff. Like I thought that was insanely impressive. It was so much fun to watch Kusta actually just popping off.
I gotta say that I casted one of Kusta had 2 1v5s this year, and I casted one of them, and I just
I remember one of them.
When I look back at it, the one against it was against you guys on Vertigo, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't do that enough justice, because I literally thought, what the hell is this? Like 1v5, the game's gonna end. Like I'm kind of like wrapping it up, but then I was like, wait a second, like holy crap!
It just happened like one by one. Like I didn't even understand what happened. I was like, did we just lose that? Like, did we just get 1v5 and a fucking retake on A? Like, what?
Yeah, and you guys knew where he was like the whole time. I think you guys knew where he was the entire time, and he just killed everybody. So yeah, that's a good shout though for Kusta there.
I think just for honorable mentions, like VSM would be on my list if he had more time to play more matches throughout this year. But he was honestly a lot of fun to watch when he joined MRBR. Also, any other year, Zipnix would be in my top 3 easily. Like Zipnix has just always been one of my favorite players to watch, but this year, obviously, with Astralis, it just didn't happen as much. But yeah, those are my little 2 honorable mentions on this list here.
I got one for you guys. How about Poison? I haven't heard his name mentioned here. How have you guys not enjoyed watching Poison?
He had a really rough year.
Oh, he had a rough year, but when he was on, especially on LAN early stages, I know you got to cast your mind all the way back, but come on.
Yeah.
When he was out aiming everybody, out sniping, dueling everybody on LAN, that was banging. I know it has to be honorable mention. You can't actually put him up there because of the rough year afterwards, but it started off real promising. I'm just saying that much.
I think the thing with Poison is that when I was watching Home Sweet Home Cups and Complexity was winning all of them, he looked so sick. Like he did things that he shouldn't have done clearly, and he was bailing himself out with aim all the time, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And I think he was just riding that high for a while, but eventually
when your aim's not there, it's over, right?
It caught up to him. And I mean, if you can keep pulling it off, and if you can keep hitting your shots, it's gonna be exciting. But after a while, I feel like his skill degraded.
I feel like that's really hurt Complexity, because kind of playing the same and like not having that kind of impact from Poison, I think really hurt them in kind of the final stages of the year.
Yeah, I could agree. All right, let's move on to our favorite teams to watch of the year. Note, who've you got?
Again, like Art was a given for the favorite players, Furia has to be a given for the teams here. But also on my list, I had Vitality, because seeing them employ that 6-man roster is not even the fact that they were winning a lot, it's the fact that they employed that 6-man roster really well, and they were the first team to really do it. Also seeing Masuda come out and just play really well on that team has been really sick. And then my third team was Big, because they were like the best team for a little while, like a number of months throughout the year, and watching them like tactically fit into the game was a lot of fun. Seeing Xantaris go from being just a raw aimer to being like a little bit more reined in sometimes was also really good. And that whole team style also just fits really well. So those would be my top 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with Vitality. I do enjoy watching Vitality a lot, even before, like when they had Alex. then afterwards, kind of playing with the 6-man roster. I've always just kind of enjoyed the style that they play. I assume kind of partly comes from their coach. I assume he has a pretty good amount of influence. So I really enjoy watching them play, and I really enjoy watching them work in the 6-man roster to finally get some event wins. It's been really enjoyable to watch. I think Furia, yeah, is also just like a given one that most people will have. Just a ton of fun to watch art going around, and then even earlier in the year, like K Serrato just owning, and when Yuri pops off, and I really enjoy seeing Henny kind of be super versatile as well. So kind of seeing Henny's spots change throughout the year has been really interesting to see. And my third, I'm gonna go like a little bit biased, obviously. I'm gonna go for XC9 because I actually felt our T sides especially were pretty fun to watch. Like I feel like they were pretty.
I agree.
Like that kind of like set style and like the flashes. I think was actually like a lot of fun to watch games back and stuff.
Yeah, I think the way I put it, I think in a Flashpoint Q&A was that like JT seems like the best like freeze time quarterback kind of guy. Like he was really good at calling whatever strat felt like would work, and you guys had really monster T sides a lot of the time. I mean, I feel like you guys were actually just carried by your T sides for most of the time. I did see you guys have some improvement on CT side. I mean, it felt like gradual, and I think I felt like you guys were fleshing the game out more, but then the whole blow up of the team and everything. I mean, I think Cloud9's in a much better place now, to be fair, but I think that it was a little bit of a shame because I did see the gradual improvements. Like you guys were incrementally getting better at different parts of the game, as opposed to just like the really sick strats. Because you guys, if any team in like ESEA Open or Intermediate or really honestly probably up to Advanced just wants to copy and paste strats out of spawn, I think XC9 is probably the best team by far this year. I don't really know any other team that ran as many set plays as you guys did, and it just takes the guesswork out of having a T side. You just know that these strats are good.
Yeah, I think that shit's still super strong on T side. Like obviously it could have helped us a lot more, especially when you play better teams to have better defaults. That's still something we needed to work on, especially kind of like Johnny's mid-round calling, being like that solid voice, being able to like direct the mid-rounds. But like having those like set strats in your back pocket that are just super sick and are gonna work is just, I think it gives you a lot of confidence, a lot of things to fall back on if say your defaults aren't working so well. So that's always kind of something I'm gonna take into like future teams and stuff, making sure you have those kind of like set strats to fall on.
I'd be really interested if someone could come up with a stat for kills that were assisted by flash assist. Like I feel like MOTM on the T side for you guys, I felt like 70% of his kills were assisted by flashes. Like it literally, like the setup was so great for him, and really, I mean, actually nearly everybody running in on a lot of your guys' strats. It just always felt like the utility, or maybe like utility assisted kills or something. Like I don't know how you could even do it. I guess something that displaces somebody else, like a smoke that they had to run through, or a flash. Any of those would be a super sick statistic. So if people could break those down in the future, that would be something I'd want to see, because I feel like you guys had probably the highest of any team on the T side. My favorite teams to watch this year were Fnatic was number one. Because I never knew what I was going to get by watching them. You always know what kind of style they're going to bring, that default heavy style. They did integrate a couple more set pieces I noticed throughout the year, but they kind of like toyed with it and then they went away from it. Like it was like really brief spurts where I would just see, oh my god, they ran 2 set plays and then I didn't see it for the rest of the tournament. So I was always a little confused by them, but when Fnatic breaks down rounds in 3v3s or 4v4 situations, like 2v2s, whatever, like late round situations, I feel like their mastery over the small, like just on the bomb site tactics was at such a high level, like playing off of each other. Like I always felt like they were going to do the right thing in terms of, I play off of your first contact and I swing, or let's double swing this angle together. It was always like their comms in those moments just seemed super collected, and they always knew how they wanted to outline a win condition in like a late round situation. So I feel like Fnatic in those moments were really good, but sometimes they honestly just got blown out because their game plans were bad.
I feel like I had watched them as much, especially this year online, but like especially like 2019, like late 2019 when they were able to play on LAN, they were probably like one of my top 3 favorite teams to watch, because I love like Golden style, and like they're kind of like loose style that's like super hard to read, but when you have like those types of players, that it really works. So I've really always enjoyed watching Golden's teams.
Yeah. I'm going to basically pick the CIS of are the Furia of the CIS region in Virtus Pro. I think by the time Buster came back to the roster after his break away from the team, and they had Yakinder also, I think once that 5-man lineup started really rolling, I think they played like, I mean, I equate them to Furia because it's like Yakinder is the art. Actually, Yakinder is kind of like art on crack because art's opening attempt rate is always like 29%. Yakinder's is like 35%. Like, this guy is in every opening duel almost every round, it feels like, for them. So the way they play that, and then like every player top to bottom for me, always felt like I knew what their role was. Like, Sanji's the obvious support, James kind of like a late round closer with the op a lot of the time, and then Buster second in right behind Yakinder, just trading off of him, and Kickert is like a bailout guy with the rifle. Like, I really enjoyed this team. And I think that also was helped by the fact that we got to know Yakinder pretty well on this podcast. So if people are interested in those, obviously do a little bit of a rewind and check those back out, how Yakinder carries himself and how much they actually think about the game. And then my third team isn't really a team, but anybody that NIP played against, I was always interested in watching, because NIP is basically like the baseline super standard team, and I could always basically, if I ever wanted to pick a team and like I wanted to learn how they play, I would just watch a demo of them playing against NIP, because NIP is just so standard in a way that I could always feel out the team so much. Like, NIP never drew other teams that felt like out of their comfort zone, so I would always just go to their demos. Like, if I want to see like, oh, how does OG play? Oh, okay, how does Big play? I would just watch them versus NIP because I knew that I'm gonna get a pretty clear-cut standard game. So
Yeah,
that's kind
I
of
remember
cheating.
watching them at like for Katowice when we played them. Like, watching them, and it was literally just the most standard, like, I was watching them. I was like, if I could like find a team that just plays this most standard CS possible, it's literally NIP on like every single map. Especially, I think they still had like Dennis at the time, or I'm not too sure, but just like around that time, they kind of like grew a little bit. I think as like Campus came in, and like they still like pretty overall standard, but I noticed kind of like a bit more changes, maybe a bit more randomness or aggressiveness. But like especially early in the year, it was literally just like the most default every single round. Like, it was just the most standard round of CS I could ever possibly imagine. It was just that every single round. When
like tier 2 pros are like, wait, what the hell are they doing in practice? Why are they doing that? Like, what those tier 2 pros are complaining about is that the other team is not playing like NIP. Like, everybody wants to practice against a team that plays like NIP. It's just the most basic game of Counter-Strike, it feels like. So and NIP kind of felt like a really good gatekeeper team in terms of like, if you really want to be a tier 1 team, you had to beat NIP pretty consistently, because they're never really just going to lose to a bad. I rarely felt like they were going to be inconsistent. Like, it was always like, this team is going to finish in like fourth place, like top maybe fourth place to sixth place in a tournament. Like, it was super set for them. Like, they could never make the leap to that super like tournament winning. But if you couldn't beat NIP, you're going to go to that. You're going to just like bomb out of the tournament, because they're just, if you can't beat them, there's a hole in your game. They'll find it.
What do you think they have to change to be able to make that level, though? I'm actually curious. Like, what move? Like, do you think it's a roster move that they have to make to be able to make that, like, break through that barrier?
I think
they need, it's either something with their system, or they need a player that like is going to take matters into their own hands at times and like have plays that kind of like add extra dimensions to their style, because that style like is like a good baseline, but I feel like they don't have enough like wildcard type things. Like, they don't have enough branches off of that. And like, the only player I can think of that maybe would do that a lot is like, I feel like maybe Rez needs to do it more, because he's like been put in those kind of positions a lot more now. So they need some kind of like, because like when I watch teams, I'm always afraid of the teams that feel like they have like a lot of different options. They have like a lot of different aggressiveness, and makes it a lot harder to read them. And like, when I'm able to like kind of easily read a team and what they're going to do every round, and like they have such like limited kind of branches available and such like limited options, it makes it a lot easier to play against them and know what to expect.
Yeah, I think like, for one stat that struck me when I was researching NIP more was that Knock was not like, you look at Opera's opening kill rates for a lot of teams, and pretty much the Opera is first or second, maybe third, and I think Knock was fourth on NIP for opening attempts. And the fact that he's not imposing himself with the weapon, like, Knock's super solid as an Opera. Like, I wouldn't say he's like a top 5 or 6 Opera in the world, but he's probably like 7 through 10, 7 through 12 best Opera out there. So
that's
the fact
something
that,
if like,
yeah,
if you go back and watch, like, a good example of this would be OC. If you go back and watch him like a
Yeah.
year ago, like the EPL finals and like EPL League,
Yes.
his opening kill rate was literally like 10% or like 9% or
Yeah.
something. Like it was
That's
like
how
one of the
Knock feels
lowest.
today.
And like now, and like especially towards the later stages of the team, he was always like, you know, second, third highest, maybe first. Like he started taking matters into his own hands a lot more. Like, you know, I think it's especially important with an opera, being able to like have certain plays that you want to make, you know, taking matters into your own hands sometimes, because you're the opera, like you have the most expensive weapon in the game. You need to be selfish sometimes and like kind of have the game go around you. And it feels like maybe NIP doesn't really do that enough.
Yeah, I don't think he takes initiative on the team. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I don't know if it's a system thing or it's a player personnel thing. I think like players that I would notice doing some more aggressive solo plays were probably Hampus and Plopsky sometimes, but like it's just so rare that I saw anybody taking any kind of solo initiative. It always felt like they wanted to play this like ABC Counter-Strike 1, 2, 3, just like play off of each other, make sure we're in the right position to trade. And that's always the reason that they're a gatekeeper team, is because that kind of style is always going to be like, you're going to exploit teams that try to make bad aggressive solo plays against you, but you're never going to catch off the top teams, because they know like, oh, okay, this guy is at B Apartments on Mirage. He made noise, but he's going to wait for his team to catch up with him for mid for him to actually do anything. So I don't even have to worry about that position. And then other teams can take more risks because they know that they can read the opponent, that they know that that guy's just going to sit there. Like, I don't even have to worry about him. So, all right, let's move on. So, the best player of the year debate, there's no way we disagree about that. It's Simple and Zywoo as the top two. So we're gonna just skip that and go to who is our third best player of the year, each of us. So, who have you guys got?
I had Device. I think, like, just without question, like it's between Device and Nico, but Device edged it out just based on the fact that he's been ridiculously consistent. Like the fact that it's like 5 years now that he's basically guaranteed to be in the top 5, and he's still winning titles. He's still being such a pivotal part of Astralis' like strategy. He's also like, he never gets burnt out. Like he's Mr. Consistent, and that's what makes him so much fun to watch, because he takes the same principle and the same style he's had and still applies it over and over and over, and teams just can't deal with that. And that to me shows like he's just absolutely world class. And like it's hard for a player like Device to get rated as a top 1 or 2 player when we have people like Zywoo and Simple with their individual level right now. But he's always going to be, to me, he's just basically the best CSGO player. Like like the greatest of all time CSGO player at the moment. Unless Simple in the next like 3 years starts like winning title after title and demolishing teams, Device is definitely like edging that out. So that puts him very firmly in the as the third best player this year.
Yeah, I really want to say someone other than Device. Like,
Yeah,
like I want to have like a different opinion, but like I look and it's like
it's
the only
hard
people
not to pick
that are
him.
even close. It's like Blame F, but I don't think I'd put him above Device. And like I wish like maybe if Mouse had a better year and like was maybe more consistent, maybe like Robs could have been up there.
Yeah.
He's had like a really solid year, but Mouse just wasn't there enough. You know, they struggled too much this year, I think. And I don't think Robs really got a chance to showcase that, you know, he could be better than Device. So even though I'm like, I kind of want to pick someone other than Device, it's like I feel hard pressed not to just pick Device and go super standard.
All right. I would have to pick Device too. So let me phrase it a little differently. Let's do, instead of third best player, let's do third most important. Like, so Simple and Zywoo would still win this, and it's basically like third most important in the context of their team. So this could include like IGLing and just like a system that's built around a certain player. So I think my people that would come up to mind would be Blame F, Art. I think those are like people that would jump off the page immediately. I think Surson is even like super important for Big too. So if I change that, would you guys change your mind, or would Device still be the most important, like third most important for his team?
Yeah, I might change that to like, see, I don't know enough about complexity and their insights to know like kind of like the job, because I don't think Blame F is like a super amazing IGL or anything. I think he's like a pretty average IGL. Just kind of from what I've seen overall.
Mm-hmm.
So like I almost kind of want to say like in terms of like third most important, I would honestly like would like to put Rops there, because I actually think he's been like that good, and I feel like everyone else has actually like struggled like that much. Like Woxic was struggling before he left Mouse. Biomass hasn't really been there. Frozen has done okay this year, but he just hasn't been like anywhere near Rops. And obviously, Kerrigan obviously is like a really good IGL, so obviously it's not like Rops is like just alone and just has no one around him, but just in terms of like Rops and his impact this year, I might almost be tempted to put him like as third most important. Because I think with the spots he plays and like kind of the versatility he's especially shown this year, I genuinely think he might be a contender for that.
I think Rops is a really good shout. I'm tempted. If Navi had a better year, I would say Electronic, just because when Simple and Electronic are both on, Navi are just steamrolling a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But I don't think they had enough of like impact in this year in terms of like winning titles to be able to, for Electronic to be able to qualify over like a Device or a Rops.
They were pretty good at the beginning of the year, but their fall off was it was like a precedent.
I would still shout out Elise for that. I feel like Liquid, like he's been the only rock solid piece like the entire, like Naf is also pretty consistent generally, but he's just not like, as like not as consistent as Elise is, and it feels like Elise is just always like up there, like 1.20 rating. It feels like he's the only person that Liquid has been able to consistently rely on like the entire year. And I also know like he's a very vocal voice in the team. Like he's a smart player. I'm sure he has a lot of say in the team. So I would also have like Elise as like a shout for possibly the third most important player.
On the Device angle, can I just say that if you get replaced by Yugi, you should probably not be in the top 3? Just saying.
Reasonable.
Device didn't get replaced by Yugi though.
Wait, yeah, I think Yugi played for, was it Zip and
Yugi played with, Yugi played with.
I just got them confused because they're both oppers, dude. Well,
yeah, Yugi was rifling. Yeah, Yugi was rifling when he actually played for Astralis.
God. Dude, what is wrong with that Astralis team?
They just needed like a body, like they just needed someone,
a human in the server.
Because like they could have like put a Device on a rifle, because obviously we know he's like a really good rifler. Maybe that would have made more sense. But I think their explanation as to it was like Device was still playing really well and like still in like that same comfort zone with opping, and he didn't feel it was like worth to take him out of that and go to rifling to have Yugi and Snappy in the team. So they just kind of stuck with Device opping even with Yugi on the team.
Well, as we've learned, we've got to take everything that they say with a grain of salt, unfortunately. But
I feel like that's pretty like a solid explanation though.
It's a sensible.
Mm-hmm.
On another note, since you mentioned Elige, if I guess we sort of almost have to break it down by region. In that sense, I would say Breezy is also like, he has to get a shout out here as one of the like most pivotal parts of EG's success this year as well.
Yeah, when he was good, they were really good. When he's just okay, when he loses 10%, that team loses like 40% of their ability. It's crazy. It's just I would probably also throw in Brawlin. I feel like it's kind of a similar deal. If Brawlin is not playing, like Brawlin is such a consistent firepower source for Fnatic that if he drops beneath 20 frags, they just can't win. It's just not even possible. Like, so I think that he's super important for that team. I'm trying to think of like most important players on a few of the top teams. Like Heroic also, when Cadian was really popping off in the mid-late year, that's when they were at their absolute peak. All their riflers were actually pretty good, including Stown, of course, but I feel like they needed Cadian to ascend in a way for them to actually reach that number 1 position, which they had for a few weeks this year. G2 was actually briefly the best also, and that was before, like, this was early in the year before Nico even joined, and I
think that's when Hunter was.
Yeah, I'd have to do Hunter. I'd have to give it to Hunter there.
I would honestly almost argue for Nexa when they were number 1. I could see an argument for Nexa, because not only is he in game leading, his style of like lurking some rounds, his style of like being able to anchor rolls and just in general trade off like positions as well, it just gave them so much diversity.
I think that Nexa actually went really under the radar this year as being super important for this G2 team, and like everybody wants to bring up Blame F because of everything that kind of went on with Complexity, but I think Nexa is actually probably a better leader, and their fragging power is very comparable, and they play a lot of like the kind of lurky positions that it feels like are set up by the strat a little bit, so they're both kind of like making systems that benefit them in a way, and I think Nexa and G2's success has been a little higher.
Yeah, I think Blameless was maybe like a little bit more so in terms of like the system, like the team kind of like playing around him.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like a coaching thing between Kata and Malik. because I do value like Malik is like one of the top coaches in the game. So obviously that might help Nexa in terms of like being a leader in an IGL, having like a really good system around them to call. But obviously you can't know that. So yeah, obviously like Blame's fragging maybe was like better, but I was obviously really impressed with Nexa and also his versatility. Like when like Nico came into the team, having to switch a lot of his spots and still playing pretty well and still leading is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's most of the top teams. All right, so let's move on now to the third best team of the year, because I think again it's Astralis Vitality 1 and 2, or however you want to break that one down. So who would you guys put as the third best team?
I would personally go with Big. And that's going to be because over the stretch of the year, I feel like G2 was like pretty good earlier in the year, but then kind of like later of the year they kind of fell off a bit. Big, I feel like, has kind of been there the entire year. They also won one of the only lands this year. They're the only team to raise a trophy in front of a crowd. So that's shout out Big.
Shout out Gen G.
Oh yeah, true. Gen G as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like Big just from like even the beginning of the year, from winning that DreamHack Open and kind of their rise to elite status, even though it was in the online era, they've been really impressive like the whole year. I feel like they've never really like dropped down too hard. Like I feel like throughout most of the year they've been like a pretty solid elite team, even if they weren't like always making the finals. So like over the stretch of the year, I'd probably have to give it to Big.
Yeah, for me it was between Navi, Heroic, and Big, and in the end I took Heroic just because their run during their portion of the year was also fantastic. And also remember the fact that when Hunden got banned, they lost like a pretty key part of their like structure.
Well,
lost part of their structure.
Well, I say that because the only thing they lost was Hunden being like in the server in the game.
Yeah,
so I feel like they really didn't lose that much. This also still pisses me off that they are still employing him. But continue.
Listen, they're being heroic. Hashtag being heroic.
Hashtag being heroic.
Oh man, but yeah, so losing him in the server specifically, I think it's set them back a little bit. So I think they might have been able to have a little bit better, like stabilize their run a little bit longer at least if Hunden had stayed in the server. Navi could have been a good shout for it, but the rest of them just did not do enough this year. Like Simple was sick. They were really good at the start of the year, and then they just fell off for too long because the rest of the team just
like they won the one big LAN of the year, but like they struggled so much against like especially in like their own region, the CIS region. It felt like I felt like it was too up and down for me to give it to them over Big.
So yeah, it was like Big is like easily the best other shout between Big and Heroic there.
Yeah, I would agree
for those.
Yeah, I would have to go with Big. So actually last night broke down how many weeks each team was number one. And for people that are curious, Astralis were the number one team in the world for 16 weeks this year. Vitality for 10 weeks. Navi also 10 weeks, but 7 of those were at the beginning of the year. And then Big was 8 weeks long at number one. Heroic was 3 weeks. G2 was 2, and the most anybody else, Fnatic and EG, both had 1 week. At the
EG?
top. Yeah, EG had 1 week. So
that was the thing.
That's actually
that was the thing.
I will give a shout out to EG because there was like a space where they literally just dominated NA for like 3 months, and I actually felt that was pretty impressive. So even though like separate regions, I would give a shout out to EG for that. I think that was a really impressive run, in my opinion.
What do you guys think about like the whole Virtus Pro angle? Because I feel like if they had actually had more the inter-regional play was active a little bit more often, they wouldn't be top 3, but they would at least be honorable mention territory. Whereas I don't feel like you can give it to them because of all of the CIS specific play. Like they weren't playing the same ranked teams, right?
I feel like they also like weren't even playing that well for like the first 8 months of the year or something. Like
they definitely only had.
They've only had this set 5 for about 4 months. So just like
it feels like it was so much longer. That's crazy.
And before that, it was pretty unimpressive with Adrian. And before that,
because they got Yakinder kind of I think April-ish this year, but they still were playing with Adren because Buster had some kind of like injury or he couldn't travel to. I think he couldn't travel from Kazakhstan to their offices in St. Petersburg or Moscow or something like that. So they had to play with Adren because he could get the visa or something, like he could travel there. And so they just wanted everybody to be in the same space. And then Buster later could get there. And then that's when Adren finally took his leave from the team. So like if VP had this 5 for longer, I would say that they would have more of a case to be at the top. The thing is that I think one of the reasons they had such a strong end of the year is because like their honeymoon period for this team came in October or like September. So that boosted them a lot, and so the recency bias is going to be really high. Like I don't think they can maintain this level of form for 12 months is the thing. Whereas I think it's really impressive what Big was able to do. That kind of like for the whole year they were teetering on like a top 5 team. So I think they basically just get like third for me.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I gotta give it to Big. I didn't write this one down, but I actually want to do this now because we talked about EG. What do you guys think were the top roster moves of the year?
Oh.
I'll just start because I'll give you guys some time because the EG thing brought it up for me. I think Zeus to EG was literally like the best. Like I think that was for a while the best move of the year. I wouldn't say it's the best overall because I think the best move overall was getting Tessus and Nico on Heroic. I think those two players made Heroic like from a team that's kind of meddling, like 15th best in the world to like they've been top 7 for pretty much the entire year because of that move. In my opinion, just made them so much more stable and strong.
I'll oust you on that one for having Nico and Tessus. I'll say that Masuda to Vitality.
I'll kind of go along those lines, and I'll say Vitality adding a 6-man.
Yep.
I actually feel that was really important to add them actually adding a bit more firepower on some of the maps, and kind of giving them that like because I don't think they'd won an event before they added Navera, right? They've gotten second a few times, and so I felt like adding Navera was like a really crucial step to actually getting past that point and actually being able to get some like event wins and really kind of like take that next step as a team. And I also felt like kind of along those lines, Vitality made a lot of good moves this year, like having Apex IGL instead of like trying to add like another IGL or having like Shocks do it or something. I felt that was a really good move, and I actually genuinely felt like that was going to work from the very moment that like they announced that, because I felt like people were kind of underrating Apex's knowledge in Counter-Strike and just because of like his old playstyle and stuff. So kind of Apex being moved to IGO, I think was also a really good move in wake of Alex having to leave the team.
Also, like mega credit to Xtez, right? Their coach. The fact that they made that work is just you have to give credit to him.
Well, it's an extension of what Josh was just saying, though. Like, do we think that they're going to be good calling wise on LAN when Xtaz can't talk the whole time? How much of it is Apex? It's impossible to really know from the outside, but I'm curious.
I feel like a good amount. I'm pretty sure a good amount of it is Apex. I'm not sure how much I don't even know how to say his name.
Xtaz. Okay. Yeah, it's like instead of a Q, it's an A, basically.
Yeah. So
remove all the extra letters that are randomly in there.
So Xtaz, I doubt he talks like that much. I actually feel like Apex is the type of guy that strikes me as someone that really wants control if he's going to be leading, and like he has a lot to say. So obviously it depends how their 6-man roster kind of continues to pan out, and obviously, it's impossible to know for sure, but in my opinion, at least, I think Vitality will continue being an elite team on LAN with Apex as their in-game leader.
I think Xtaz's contribution comes more into like preparation and just being ready with a game plan and having their general like team in the right atmosphere.
Because I know this was like a really small thing, but like even before when Alex is still on the team, like Apex is like still like the person that was like scheduling their scrims and stuff, which is like a small thing, but it's kind of rare to see like a player in general like doing that. So it kind of just showed to me there was like a level of like leadership almost there. Like it felt like he was he had like a big say in the team already. So him going to IGO, I felt like wasn't too surprising to me. That was actually what I think when Alex first announced he was leaving, people were like, "Oh no, Shocks is gonna IGL now or something," and like I kind of felt from the moment I was like, I bet it's gonna be Apex. Like that seems like the next logical step in his career.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out super well. Let's move to top 3 newer players. So I say newer players because these guys aren't like no one. I don't think we're gonna pick people that have literally just started playing Counter-Strike because I don't think any of us know anybody like that. But people that have kind of like the way I took it is the 3 players I picked are basically players that were like last year playing just a lot of qualifiers, maybe some B tier, maybe one A tier event, but mostly are now playing.
I got 2. I got 2 already.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so more bias. Floppy and OC are kind of like my two obvious ones in my opinion.
They were like playing last year. I feel like
Floppy's cheating. Yeah.
Floppy's
definitely been up there.
You said Floppy's a newcomer for me.
You said they played one A tier event.
Okay,
before
maybe
this
he
year.
did. Okay, maybe he did, but I just okay. So this is super subjective, of course, but I don't really see him like that. Like I don't. Okay, you could carry on though. Carry on. Like how do you? Why do you think he's there? He played pro. Like didn't he play pro league in 2019?
We played Pro League
I think
finals.
last
That's it.
season, yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Like all he
I
played.
guess that's true. I guess you're. You know what? When I do look at his stuff, he played Fragadelphia's last year. So yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I guess he is a newcomer.
I
guess
think
that's true.
I think we just know him more because we're all
Yeah,
part of like the
Yeah,
NA scene,
true.
so we've been following them for a while.
Yeah,
Compared to like, I think Europeans probably didn't have as good of an idea of who he was
that's true.
before this year.
That's
Same with like OC. But yeah, like OC especially, like just improved leaps and bounds this year. Like I can't say that enough. Like how much he improved from last year to this year. It's genuinely insane. And yeah, Floppy just. I always kind of felt, just even from the moment I kind of got into a team with him, I felt he's going to be successful. He just has like the right attitude generally when it comes to playing. He's like pretty unselfish. He generally makes the right plays, and he has that ounce of kind of star power and making his own plays as well. So it didn't really surprise me to see those two come on. Man, who's another one though? Here, one of you guys go. I gotta think of a third.
Okay, well, I took Grim just because you can't not take Grim this year.
Yeah.
I see Grim as like I see Floppy too. Like I guess
Yeah,
I've just
sure.
known these guys for too long that I almost don't see them as newcomers. But yeah, okay, but he is. When I looked at his Wikipedia, also I saw he played a lot of qualies and things like that last year. So it is a fair shout. But he played Pro League back in 2018, so that's why
True.
I was kind of like I don't really want to include him, but he did impress. I think he impressed the globe this year for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the level he hit this year against the sort of teams he was playing was just a different level versus the past. Like he's really hit his stride this year, and being able to make it onto something like Liquid sort of just makes him be a breakout player in that sense. Like even though he's been putting up really good numbers for a while, it's just he sort of attained that next level this time around.
Yeah, he showed that he could do it against higher competition for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Before it was just domestic. Yeah.
And then, as I've already mentioned him, but Masuda also has to be one of them for me, just because being able to go onto Vitality and being able to win titles already, being like a competitor, being a top one team, is also in basically your first year on like a top team is just.
I mean, Masuda's even more
really
impressive because he was literally playing like advanced before he was on Vitality, so that's like a true newcomer.
Yeah, I agree.
And then for me, I had Yakinder just because even though it's been a relatively short amount of time that he's been like on VP, just the fact that team managed to make like the strides that they did with him, being able to implement his aggressive style into that team and being able to really like change their dynamic and basically make them the Furia of CIS, made them be like that's basically what allowed VP to become what they are right now. And then as an honorable mention, I have to say Zeppa, just because I think if you were watching the North American matches, then you have to mention Zeppa because Chaos would not be where they are without him.
Yeah,
like no question.
Zeppa was actually on my list as well. He's on my list. I think Zeppa just like less known than Floppy and Grim for me, but I think this year he really just made a name for himself. I feel like it was always stirring in the MDL NA kind of tier 2 scene that this guy was gonna be good, and you do hear that a lot in NA, so you kind of like wait for them to prove it. And I think Zeppa really did prove it. Like he looks like he's gonna be a really solid piece for any team. Like you could put Zeppa on most top 15 teams right now, and barring language barrier, I think he would just be a super solid rifler. Like he could, if you literally just put him in for ESA on OG, for example, you wouldn't even really know the difference. I think if you took the nameplates off, I think they're just both super skilled like that.
Speaking of OG, like some E names I kind of just thought of. I don't know if Mantu counts as a newcomer this year.
I would say because last year he was playing B tier events and
and like OG only played like 1 or 2 events last year.
Yeah,
right?
It was on alternate attacks. He won Meisterschaft with them against Sprout. Like that was his biggest accomplishment for this.
And
year,
one thing Alexi B even mentioned is that he wasn't even opping on that team.
Yeah, he wasn't an opera. I actually was looking at this guy back when I was still in E United as like a potential guy to pick up, and like he was literally like a super aggro rifler, like like playing like a lot of, he's like kind of like a second opera playing some anchor spots, but he was like literally like their hard entry like every single round, and still like just absolutely fragging out. And so for him to go to opping from that was really impressive. And obviously Navera is another really good newcomer, kind of speaking to our Vitality fucking boner that we have.
I was actually thinking about Navera a little bit more because I was kind of like, he was knee-jerk reaction for me in recency bias was that Navera was really good, but then I really started thinking about what I saw from him on Heretics, and he just felt really streaky and really
he was good
inconsistent.
at first on Heretics, like when they had like the first few good runs, and then it seemed like things kind of went downhill after that. But I kind of question how much is that on him, how much is on the fucking mess that was just Heretics before he went to Vitality. So I'd still cast him as like an honorable mention maybe. I probably wouldn't put him like my actual top 3.
Right. He would make like a top 8 for me, but when I looked at his stat, okay, so I looked at his HLTV stats for this year on Heretics. Against top 10 teams, he was a 0.86 rating. Against top 30 teams, he was a 0.98 rating. And he was like just like a 1.1 player on Heretics, and they played a lot of bad teams. So I just think like, I think what they've done with Navera and what they saw in him and how they've capitalized on it is incredible. So I give actually more credit to Vitality's Xtaz and Apex over Navera, even though Navera's doing it in the server. Like, I've seen this guy at really low points this year, like in other RMR events with Heretics playing in them, and he's been really, really underwhelming. So good for Vitality and good for him to capitalize on the positions he's been put in on that team, but I kind of like can't put him in my top 5 even.
He didn't activate himself basically. Like he was activated by Apex and Xtaz in that team.
Yes, that's what I would agree with that. To continue with mine, so one would be Yakinder or Zeppa and Yakinder are both there for me for a lot of the reasons we've already mentioned. And my 3 would be Shiro, actually, on Gambit. I think that he's been like last year again, he kind of played some events.
Yeah, he played some events.
But this year was where I saw him play a lot more EU competition, and I think he just showed that in the CIS region, barring Navi and VP players, I think he's just the best player, flat out. You include everybody on Spirit, everybody on Gambit, any other teams, like Namiga and stuff like that, and I think he's just leaps and bounds above most of those players. So I'd have to give it to Shiro. I think he's just kind of he's just owning that region right now for me.
One more honorable mention I want to make is Junior from Triumph. He also had
That's
a
good
really
one.
excellent year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one too. Yeah, Junior instantly impressed me, like especially on his CT sides. I feel like T sides maybe Triumph could do more, or whatever team he goes to could do more to activate him. But Junior on like their CT sides was like so impressive, like the impact he was having and like his, he was not afraid to make plays and take matters into his own hands, which I absolutely love in an opera. I think that's super important. Not being afraid to take risk and try to have a lot of impact. And I think Junior's probably been, obviously along with Grim earlier in the year, like their biggest reason for success.
For me, it feels almost like a device in them making. Like obviously, it's a really ridiculous comparison to make right now based on the achievements between the two. But just in terms of the style, like he knows when to take his individual fights. He knows when he can aggress. He knows when he has to fall off, which is sort of what Device's opping became very consistently known for. So to me, if he can keep that level up and also just evolve on it more, he can catch up to that sort of level in 3-4 years, maybe 2 to 3 years, let's say.
Yeah, I would. I think that's a really good nomination or honorable mention. Okay, let's bring this now to the Patreon question. We are still taking these. God, I forgot to shout it out in the beginning. That's fine. All right. We have a Patreon still. Be sure to donate. You can get questions on the show. This week, Pronogo, who's it from? It's the guy that changed his name like 8 times.
It's Fearsock, dude. Gotta love yourself some Fearsock.
Fearsock. All right. Fearsock is asking us, with the steady decline of the NA scene over 2020, we've seen Brazilian teams trying out NA talent. Junior.
I think you meant Junior to Furia there.
Yeah, Junior rumored to Furia, Swisher and Booby to Yeah Gaming are examples, and it's actually been the vice versa as well. Like kind of like the intermeshing of Brazilian and NA people are playing with each other. Rumored fall into Liquid on top of that, and we've seen Taco and Steel in the past to Liquid. Over the course of 2021, do we think this trend will continue, and is a merger between the two scenes feasible?
Yeah, I think it'll continue. I think that's also just a kind of symptom of the NA scene as a whole. I feel like that's going to happen with NA players going to EU teams as well. Like, I think Twist is like rumored to phase at the moment, or rumored in talks with them or whatever. So, I feel like just in general with the NA scene, like the lack of actual opportunities, and like I feel like there's more talent in NA than there are opportunities, and I think even like European and Brazilian teams are seeing that now. And so you'll see like like if Chaos doesn't find an org, maybe Zeppa will like find a European team that will want to take a chance on him. Twist is looking to play on a European team, I'm pretty sure. So I think it's pretty just natural, and especially with the Brazilian scene hasn't like been doing like too hot, and they don't have like unlimited options either. Like they're not like just producing mad amounts of talent at the moment. So I think it just kind of makes sense for both scenes just to, especially with most Brazilian teams already living in NA, just to like kind of mingle a bit more and kind of like adapt their teams to English a bit more. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
I agree with that. I think it's gonna continue happening. I also think it has the potential to just be a very good trend in North America in general, because right now, to me, a lot of what the upcoming North American players struggle with is like decision making and being able to consistently like not throw away their lives in situations, and being able to properly like adapt and make reads rather than just go for aim duels and just like play their own North American style in that sense. So with Brazilian teams like picking apart some of these more talented North American players and giving them the sort of base to understand some different maneuvers in the server, I think that'll just help in general in terms of the way the talent can develop. Because, for example, when Stewie went to MIBR, or to SK, I guess back then, the sort of experience he got just individually from playing under Fallen helped him massively when he went to Liquid as well. So like being able to pull some of the key elements from the Brazilian style of the game is also just in general going to benefit North America as a whole, I think. Also with like, I think there's like two other Brazilian teams rumored to come to North America, like the ex Boom lineup,
yeah.
and there's also that there's also like Taco's team with Dumao and whatnot. That's apparently also in the works. So with those, it's just going to be more teams that can sort of pull from this North American talent pool, and I think it'll only benefit us in the end.
Corral.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's terrible. I think it should stop. No, there's no hot takes on this show, honestly. So honestly, I just tried making one up, but there's no way to argue against it. Yeah, I think that the region should definitely intermingle more. I think it just benefits both regions. I think the only thing about is a merger between two scenes feasible? It's as feasible as it's fiscally available for the orgs. If Brazilian orgs can send their players to NA and play, they should. At least NA, if not Europe, and then we'll just get more teams that are kind of like these hybrids. And as long as people can handle the language barrier, because I don't know, for example, like how well certain players, even some of the SK guys, like I don't know how well Phelps ever really spoke English, for example. So I would love to see him be with some NA players, but I just don't know if it's possible because he can't speak English as well. But that's just a case by case basis. But for the most part, if it can work, then they should try, because I mean we're already kind of hamstrung as much as we are in the NA space, so it would just benefit the regions to just put together the best rosters that they can in terms of potential and skill, and then just see where they can go on an international level.
And it kind of combines like
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it also kind of combines like two separate, almost like scenes, like brands, like fan bases. I would say, because like you have like kind of like the more European / NA fan base, the like primarily English speaking fan base, and you have Brazilian fan base where it's like it feels like every single Brazilian player on Twitter has like at least 100k followers. Like I looked at TRK's Twitter the other day, and he was already at like 120k, and I was like, dude, what in God's name? Like this scene is ridiculous. Like
I feel like if you can even just type Portuguese on Twitter, you will literally gain like 50% more followers.
Wow, Ryan at Rush B Media's Twitter strategy.
I just like Mayor tweeted he was like looking for a new team, and like I used to talk to Mayor, so like I said, good luck, you're a good player, wish you luck. and I got like 150 likes and like 30 new followers just from that. And I was like, dude, holy shit, I need to do this more.
Yeah, just interact with them.
That's basically a very similar point to what I was going to make with like having the Brazilian fan base able to also get activated in North America a little bit more is also just a major benefit. It's also my hope is that it like those Brazilian players who know how to activate their fan base help the North American players a little bit who lack a fundamental understanding. They lack
accuse them.
Yeah, they lack a fundamental like misunderstanding of how to activate fan bases, I think, for a lot of players. And I think that having Brazilian players who sort of know how to work with that and able to, even if it's not necessarily North American fans that they help activate, even if you bring more Brazilian fans into liking North American teams, maybe they get familiar with some of our players and don't accuse them of cheating when they break out
that'd be great
against some of their teams. That'd be pretty good.
Thanks so much.
Watch next addition to Liquid with Fallen joining after is going to be Leaf. Leaf joins Liquid in place of somebody. That would just break the internet. That would break Twitter. All right, let's get back on track with our annual recap. What are the top matches of the year for you guys that you guys think are worth rewatching?
I think no question the Navi versus Astralis IM Katowice semifinal. Just based on Simple and Electronics performance in that, it was just a beauty to watch, honestly. Also one of the last LAN matches that happened, so
yeah,
without question, one of my favorite matches of the year, I would say.
Yeah, like the Blast, like early in the year, one of the ones I really enjoyed that was really unexpected was Complexity versus Astralis.
Yes.
Just because I don't think anyone was really expecting Complexity to come in and actually win that. And I always enjoy seeing Oboe shit on some kids.
It's been too long.
It's been too long. I'm still waiting. I can't wait till it happens again. I feel like in terms of like the online era, I feel like actually one of my favorite ones. Obviously, this is biased, but Cloud9 versus Complexity, kind of like the first matchup of the Juggernaut versus the Colossus, I think was a really good and hype matchup. And I think that was
fun.
Yeah, I think that one was genuinely like a really fun mashup with a really good story to it. I can't really think of any at Katowice that still like stand out to me. Like DreamHack, the final, I really enjoyed watching. That's probably mostly just because I was there in the crowd. That was,
Anna?
I missed that.
Oh, the Leipzig one?
Yeah, Leipzig.
Yeah. I remember the Anaheim games pretty well too. I think the Complexity versus Furia one was pretty good in my opinion. I wouldn't put that on my top list though. I think the two games that I remember the most vividly are Mad Lions versus MIBR Grand Finals Flashpoint 1 because of the choke that MIBR had. I think that was just great. That was crazy.
That's great content.
Yeah, that was just an excellent game. In terms of just how you could just feel like, even though it was all online, there's a few games this year I feel like I watched where I could feel.
I could still feel like the energy and like the pressure in the end. Like the Colossus vs Juggernaut was one of them. Yeah, like the Flashpoint 1 final was another.
Yeah, the upper bracket semis of the Blast Premier Fall finals that just happened.
Yeah,
between Vitality and Navi as well. The one that was 2-0 for Vitality, but both maps overtime. That one also felt really intense. Same sort of energy.
Some underrated ones for the beginning of the year that I really enjoyed were the EG versus OG matches on LAN at Blast. Kind of like OG's like kind of coming out party against EG. I felt those were some really enjoyable matches to watch.
I would say also, just for the sake of the novelty of it, the Furia, like basically the reason I almost feel like we made the podcast, the Furia versus 100 Thieves Vertigo game, IEM New York, just because they busted out the boost and it was super like just intriguing, and no one really has done it even since then. So I think that's, from a novel standpoint, just a really good one to look back at and just see how a team had to adapt to something live in a game that they've never seen before.
I think you guys are forgetting one of the most important matches of the year, though. It would be Chaos versus MIBR at CS Summit 6 qualifying.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that actually might be my favorite match of the year, no lie. MIBR losing to Chaos playing with their coach, and then accusing Leaf and sending a massive witch-hunt on him is just...
Wait, don't forget they accused MCE as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. They accused MC fucking E of cheating.
Jesus
forgot about that.
Christ.
Like that whole saga was just absolutely fucking ridiculous and genuinely made me lose kind of respect for some of them. But like
Yeah.
just absolutely insane scenes and Chaos beating MIBR with a stand, and then just the amount of salt that came from Brazil and those players afterwards is just unfathomable. Like it's just unreal scenes.
Mm-hmm. I think there was when Astralis or when Heroic played Astralis in the DreamHack Open Fall, I think it was. I think that was pretty interesting also, but it's kind of lower on my list.
Was that the one where Nikolai Nyholm offered Cadian out and said, "Come to my office and we'll settle this mano y mano in a ringed show match, gladiator style"?
I think that was part of that hype building up for the Danish derby.
Yeah.
Everybody in Europe says derby. It's derby, guys. It's a derby. It's not derby.
Also, for me, like the most intense matches of the year for me, no lie, were some of our matches versus Envy when we kind of like the kind of shit talk going on.
Yeah.
Like me and Ricky versus like Legia and Nifty at times. Like that shit. Those games were actually so intense because they were like so close every time, and then we'd barely win, and we just shit talk on Twitter after, like we fucking stomped them or something. That shit was too funny.
Yeah.
I think an honorable mention. I actually don't know if you guys might have mentioned and I missed it, but honorable mention goes out to the Navi Vitality Beijing Haijian's final.
Yeah.
The best of 5, because
That
that
was a
was also
banger.
just that was
the
a sick match. That was Vitality's first like trophy.
Was that the
win.
reverse sweep, right?
Yep, that was a reverse sweep.
Yeah.
And they finally broke their streak of not getting trophies as well. So
Yeah, I forgot the way Vitality actually broke it was reverse sweeping Navi, which is just perfect. I don't know.
Simple going 118 and 70.
That's kind of like a really predictable script, but you know, whatever.
Yeah,
and afterwards
Anders
he's like,
has
"I'll
really
try
got to
harder
work
next
on
time.
this.
Sorry, guys."
Anders just have to work on his simulation scripting. Honestly.
Yeah, it's been a bit too predictable at times.
I would put. I think the best individual map at Flashpoint 2 was probably VP versus Mad Lions on Train, map number 3. Just felt like Mad Lions were gonna win for so long, and then VP just kept crawling back slowly, like even with man deficit rounds and things like that. That was pretty good.
Ivy push, man.
That refresh Ivy push was it's a thing of beauty. For VP side, of course. I think that's a good recap. I think that's good. Let's move on to the top broadcast talent of the year. I'm not gonna say myself on this one.
I'll say Mauisnake.
Yeah,
Thank
dude,
you.
For sure.
Come on.
No, Cat. I'll actually go. My favorite to always watch is actually Maniac. I always love watching Maniac on the desk. I feel like he always has like really good points. I just like listening to him, and like I like his takes on Twitter and stuff too. As like the matches are going on, it feels like he's someone that I can tell like whenever he's doing a match, you know, like genuinely cares about each match he's doing. It feels like, you know, is genuinely interested. So Maniac is like pretty consistently like probably my favorite broadcast talent.
Yeah, I really liked when I was on the desk with him briefly for a DreamHack event. I think the Open Fall. We were together a couple of times on it, and yeah, he's like gentleman, like kind of persona is. It feels like that's really how he is. So it's really it's great.
One thing I really like about Maniac on Deaths is that he has a psychology background. So a lot of his, like, he can bring in that sort of perspective into his analysis as well. Like, he'll talk about the team's mindset going into it. He'll talk about how they can be psychologically broken from certain things. Like, I really like the fact that he can bring both his game expertise and his like psychological like degree into his analysis. Wow, I can't talk right now. Sick. But another thing I want to mention is I actually was pretty impressed by Haka and Alan Header at Flashpoint. I think they were both like two really good, basically newcomers to like the top end of broadcast talent.
Yeah, I'm a fan as well. I want to shout out Sponge live Skybox breakdowns are like that in. I mean, I think there was a lot to be desired on ESL broadcast, but that was one thing that no other TO was able to even get close to in terms of freeze. Like, Sponge was so fast at just bringing up a skybox of the previous round and just showing in the freeze time what just happened so that people could appreciate it more. And it made you think about, certain macro elements to the game or how a strat worked that nobody else was able to do. And I think my call out for other talent is learn how to use Skybox, because it took me like a couple of hours to just get familiar with it, and I was able to do it at Flashpoint. But like, I think it's really daunting as an application because there's a lot of settings you can use and like a lot of like little features and gizmos. But once you kind of figure out how you want to use Skybox, it makes watching the game back so easy for casual viewers that I really wish everybody did it, because it's such a great tool. We should be using the tools that we have and in a way supporting the companies that are actually giving us more to work with on our space. I think frag replays are great. Stats Helix is also very good for breaking down like rotations or things like that, or where a smoke landed. But Skybox is like, you can't get anything as good as Skybox as fast as Skybox. So like, that's like, for any broadcast talent or prospective broadcast talent out there, just freaking use Skybox. Like, it's really good. It's really, really useful.
I feel like Sponge is so ingrained in my mind that I like almost forgot about him.
Yeah,
I'm just so used to him.
Sponge is he's just excellent, right? Like, it's really hard to be able to take him out of the question. Mm-hmm. So when I saw top broadcast talent, I was like, Sponge was at the bottom of my list, but not because he's. I honestly think he's like probably top one in terms of like if I was to rank my favorite analysts, but he was just at the bottom because I was just thinking like these other people have come up, whereas like Sponge has just been Mr. Consistent, like always incredible. So yeah, it's almost like he was just at the back of my head in that sense. Yeah, but as you were saying, I'd love to see more analysts use Skybox, because being able to break segments down in like a 30-second freeze time and bring that sort of knowledge to like some more casual viewers really opens up some of the opportunities for like more in-depth analysis and content later on as well.
Yeah, I think what it allows is, because everybody can watch CSGO and just be, and maybe I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I think everybody watches CSGO and really appreciates the aim, the fragging ability. Sometimes you'll see an exec kind of, because the observer does a really good job of showing where the smokes landed on a bomb site or something with like a third person perspective, but it's super fast and it's brief, and it's hard for like a casual viewer to see that and then like realize, okay, now I'm in the eyes of a player. That's how it's going to break down now. But what he did with Skybox is like I remember there was this one thing where Sponge showed just how concerted Madline's effort in the mid round was to find more information on Vertigo A ramp. And it was just like, dude, that just showed exactly why Madlines won that round. It showed the intricacies of playing that side on the map. Like, it elevates your understanding of the game. And when someone understands the game more, they're going to watch more. That's just how it is. It draws more like casual viewers into the deeper side of the game and makes them long-term fans. So I like have to just give a huge shout out to Sponge, because he was able to do that for anybody watching those ESL broadcasts. Okay. Let's
shout out Scrawny. That's my pick. I think Launders as well, like just to your point about like getting viewers in, he created a lot of content this year just on his YouTube channel, and it allowed a lot of people to improve their appreciation for pro players and pro teams and all that stuff in a similar fashion to what you're talking about with Sponge. Obviously it's external to the broadcast, so less people are going to be overlapping, but I know for a fact there's a bunch of people who watch those videos, and then like when the player that he was looking at was playing their next pro game, they were like, oh, let's go see if I learned anything, or let's go see if there's like a connection or something. There's something else that they could bring to the conversation, so to speak.
We'll get to the top pieces of content right now. All right, so that's a good precursor though, and a good was well put, Pronogo. But now we'll do it. Well, now we'll all get into it. Top pieces of content. Pronogo's already got his shout out for the Launders POV breakdowns. What else have you guys liked in terms of like video content primarily?
I really liked the addition of like the mic'd up segments that Blast started. Once they started doing them, then like ESL obviously hopped on, and then Flashpoint hopped on. So just bringing that in, I think, also helped elevate not only the broadcast but also just viewers for the game in general, because obviously you can't air like certain strategy elements of it, but being able to hear like the occasional communication between teams of like, I'm flashing here, smoke here, even if it's not a set strat, but just like mid-round stuff. I think that helps like more casual viewers appreciate the tactical aspect of the game, and also like adds on to the whole broadcast elements of it. And that way, when you hear the mic'd up segment and then you hear Sponge breaking down like the strat on his own, it sort of gives you a bit more appreciation for the layers that go into something like that.
Yeah, I'll kind of. I feel like it's a double-edged sword, and we've talked about the drawbacks of showing too much with those mic'd up segments. But I'm gonna say that they were entertaining, and that I did enjoy hearing all the comms. Like, I'm not gonna lie about it. Like, I know it's kind of wrong in a way, and if we take it to the like where it would go ultimately, like we would start showing all the comms of all the players all the time, and I think that's bad. That is actually bad for the scene. But I will say that I'm okay. It's like Blast took the hit for everybody else because we did want to hear those things. Like, in all honesty,
what I hope to see next year is seeing like, I know like it's been said that it'd be like harder to do because you'd have to hire someone dedicated, but I honestly wouldn't even mind seeing like someone dedicated to helping production with what can and can't be aired in terms of team comms. Because having someone who actually has like some knowledge about what teams would be comfortable sharing and being able to make that sort of executive decision opens up so many doors, because then you have like segments that aren't going to leak strats, but it also allows you to give people more perspective on what teams are doing and how they're communicating certain situations as well. So I'd love to see like a dedicated analyst just to help the producers for stuff like that next year.
For me, obviously, I really liked a lot of the content that Flashpoint did this year. Just like the general interviews and like the player profiles and things like that. Like I remember the A-Core one for Flashpoint 1 was something I really enjoyed. Kind of a smaller thing that I enjoyed, just like to add to a broadcast, I guess. I guess maybe this doesn't necessarily count, but I really enjoyed like the little pieces that Blast had in between like halves and stuff. If like the players doing like KZ together and stuff, and all those kinds of like little scenes. I actually really enjoyed those. Like, just it really kind of, obviously it's like a small thing, but it kind of helps you just kind of stay tuned into the broadcast, kind of lead into the analyst desk and whatever. So I really felt there's a really enjoyable like casual thing to watch in between matches and stuff.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're a TO and you're not showing things at halftime or during breaks, and you just have a number counting down, you are behind. I think Blast and Flashpoint have really set the bar really high in terms of just making sure that the entire stream, start to finish, is a very entertaining product that you don't want to turn away from at any given second. And so I got to give a huge shout out to Flashpoint, because I was working on it obviously, and that it just felt like the skits at the beginning of the day that we'd show later on if there was a break or something, or the interviews and the long form player profiles that they did of A-Core, Bentet, Alex, and Freiberg were like super high quality. It's basically like we just got the major player profiles, but for a tournament. So that was just crazy. I think that Blasts, I did like those like middle of the KZ and the jailbreak things a lot too. I thought those were super. I weirdly was frustrated, but it's one of those like disasters I couldn't stop watching. Was when one player had to communicate with the other player who had his monitor off about where to go. Like it was just like, this is hurting.
I didn't see any of those.
I have to see this. Like it was so bad.
For some reason, it was like it hurt, but like I just had to watch it. Like I was
exactly.
It's genuinely so entertaining. Like
just watching a car crash on F1, you just gotta see it. You just like it's so bad, but it's like I need to keep watching. It's so So I really do appreciate those. So those got to go out there. I was gonna shout out a little bit of some YouTube content I like too. One was Thorin's saga on Nico, about just like calling him out as a player, and that kind of is extended from Nico versus Nico to his like story about Nico at the bar at E-League Atlanta stuff, like how he had to do the whole chart or whatever. I think the Thorin v Nico saga was one of my favorite pieces of content for the year. So
it's a long saga.
Yeah. I have to give that one a shout out though.
On that note, I'll say Thorn's scrapbook series has also been excellent to give like some perspective on individual in-game leaders and just in general talk about like some of the research and thought that goes into the matches for some of these teams and players. Like being able to actually get the direct perspective from the in-game leader instead of just speculating on stuff or having like another player speculate on stuff just allows like more understanding into a team's dynamics. Like the one with Alexi B recently talking about like how Mantu came into the team and how they've adapted with NBK and stuff like that is just not something that you would get from just talking to, I don't know, Valde or something, for example.
Yeah, I agree. I think that series is super good. I still think even though they don't do it as much, I still think Counterpoints is probably my favorite overall CS podcast though. I want to give that another shout out because that one, like Thorn and Moses are just they're one of my favorite podcast dynamics in there. It is my favorite podcast in the scene. So I kind of wish they would do that more, but I know that Moses is busy and Thorn, I don't know.
Yeah, fuck Moses being selfish.
I would assume it's a little harder for them to coordinate those. Yeah.
I would love to see the return of Put Up or Shut Up.
Oh,
that is a classic series.
I feel like I say that once a year, at least that I want more of that. I said that on CS Summit 2 to Bears, I think, and then I would say that again right now. That show is so great. So, other thing, shout out to Pronogo for all the content he's put out. You've been super consistent on your YouTube grind. I think you also are just like doing a really good job in showing off more of like some hidden people in the scene. Like I haven't really seen Mahone have a platform before that ever. Like I've never even seen Mahone's face before you did that. So
same.
Like so yeah, like
he's from my city. I can't say the same thing.
I just think I think what you've been doing and getting people has been really consistent and good stuff. So shout out to you.
Appreciate it. Thanks to all three of you guys who appeared at some point or another. That's pretty cool too.
Anything else? On the flip side, shout out to 100 Thieves content for saying that this is a long-term investment. This is going to be years in the making. In their first video, which came out October, I think 9th, 2019, or October 31st, 2019. And then less than a year later, on October 9th, 2020, they said they were pulling out of CS. And in the time, they only made 5 like real CS videos. So shout out to them for that banger content. And actually, I looked, they made 2 videos about them opening cases and 2 videos about the CSGO pros playing Valorant. So like,
nice.
Just like please just get it. Like
they gotta be like a real org that takes it seriously, you know, not focus on selling hoodies, you know, like Envy.
That's a good one.
The other part I don't understand about that is that those players were in the 100 Thieves offices too, so it's not like they didn't have the chance to make like good content.
Yeah,
they just had no one who had any idea what to do, I guess.
Yeah, so it was 11 total videos. One was welcoming to the team. One was goodbye to the team. 4, and like I said, 4 were like 2 Valorant, 2 case opening, and then 5 left were actually about here's how we play this tournament. And I was like, okay, you guys actually just really missed the mark here on what this was supposed to be about, I think. And they won some stuff too, so like that just felt really bad. But all right, moving on. Anything else you guys can think of? Pronoga, do you have any content you liked over you said you liked Launder stuff?
Yeah, I'll second the Flashpoint skits. I think my favorite ones were the Thorin archaeology one, and then also the one where we had Potter who was like in the mind of Thorin, and she was like behind the mad.
She's ghostwriting the tweets. She's ghostwriting Thorin's tweets.
Yeah, that was really good. So I really appreciated those ones. I'll also say the one that you brought up, Mauisnake, about the pro players who had to like navigate a blind monitor, like no sight. That was actually really fun because for me, I'm the kind of guy who, unfortunately, my attention span has degraded such to the point where as soon as that counter comes up and says we'll be back in like 5 minutes, I'm just like, all right, what else can I look at? Let's go. Let's get up out of the chair. Let's go for a run. Let's do something, dude. I can't handle this. But obviously, with that was on, I was like, oh yeah, let's stay and watch. This is
CSL's credit. I think for like global challenge, I think they started showing like surf stuff, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
some of the top surfers do, and like I really enjoy those. So I would enjoy like more surfing content just in general for that stuff because
Right.
I really enjoy watching that type of stuff. Even like pros doing like surf maps together, timed. I think would be a lot of fun to watch.
The other thing ESL did, I think it was for Global Challenge, is they started doing like the refrag bits as well. I think they had like Big playing in a refrag match.
Oh yeah.
Execute from Astralis, and all the bots are set to pro. So
Oh,
Brolin's
yeah.
like walking up short and insta headshotting these guys. They're
Yeah.
yelling so loud. Those were really good. That's something that I even suggested to ESL when I talked to them. Like before that event, like I was telling them they should start doing refrag for even the MDL broadcast. Like have some of the MDL players come on and just have like 3 of their teammates play against some random exec as well. But one other shout out is a little less like tangible, but just in general, the broadcast design of Flashpoint and Blast, I want to give credit to because it's kept stuff really refreshing in a year where stuff has just been like constant events and a bit of a slog. So not just the shoulder content they have on during the broadcast, but just in general, like the flow of their broadcast. I want to give credit to that because it just keeps stuff moving, but also keeps stuff sort of dynamic in the way it's explained.
Yeah, I want it to be known that the way that the death segment leads into the casters for Flashpoint is something that it's so simple, but I haven't seen it done before where it's like they literally are throwing to them and then there's a back and forth between caster and analyst segment. That I don't know why that hasn't been done before, and I know people are going to start stealing that. Like I think it just makes sense that Blast and ESL start doing that when they get and so I wanted to like solidify that this is a Flashpoint creation and that it's really good. Like that just it just makes the whole segment feel more fluid and natural. So yeah. All right, let's move on then. That was really good. A lot of good content this year. I think people are just up the game so much given that your backs are against the wall in terms of like what you actually have to work with. And so props to all the TOs and people who stepped up in the scene to give us more to watch when all we are doing is sitting at our computers and like we can't even go outside for the most part. So let's move on to written stuff. So top news stories of the year. And before we even begin, I want to bring up that I think I just have to shout it out. I think your Pillars of Sand article was like instrumental in fostering a better NA scene and circuit and the ESEA cash cups that develop because of it, and probably other little cups out there that are starting to sprout up. I think that if people didn't read it, they should go back and see what the problems Note outlined and just how they were fixed with a lot of the things that he said. So props to Note for that. That was probably my favorite article of the year already.
Thanks,
but what else you guys got?
My most unexpected one was reading Fall into Liquid, because that one was funny because it also got removed from Reddit at first.
So you're shouting out Ryan?
Yep, shout out Ryan. I don't know
Poor
why
Ryan had like
Ryan,
3 reports removed by the Reddit mods this year.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
I think the first one was because Valorant was in the title, but then they removed that rule or something.
Yeah.
But then because they had that rule before, when people were posting it to Reddit, they'd like change Valorant to Riot's game or some like weird shit. And then they started removing it because they're like, you can say Valorant, it just looks ugly with this, so we use the one that has a better title instead. And Ryan just got shafted like 3 times because of that.
I don't know if you count this, but I think it was Richard's piece on MIBR.
That was on my list.
Yeah, I think after like the whole Leaf drama and the stream drama, whatever the other drama was for Spheria, that was a really good read. That was probably one of my most memorable ones of the year.
I can't believe he got to finish it. Honestly, they kept coming out with more and more for him to add to the list.
I also want to give a shout out to, I think it was Lucas who wrote this piece on Israeli Counter-Strike recently on HLTV.
Oh yeah,
also very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had our new writer come in and write a One for the Future piece as well, which if you guys have not read it, would highly recommend. It's on Dexter, the Russian player, but also very well written. Interview done by Alexei in that one. So
Okay, something about that like I felt like I was getting deja vu when that article came out. I thought someone was already talking about Dexter in an article. Was I just reading
I
Twitter?
mentioned Dexter on this podcast, I think, before that.
Okay, I thought there was like a longer form. Maybe someone wrote a Twitter thread about Dexter. I don't know, but I thought I don't know. My brain was just like short circuiting when I was seeing that because I was like I thought I just read something about this guy, but maybe it was just some Twitter stuff.
I think
So,
Luis Mira might have had a Twitter thread on him at some point.
that seems likely. Yeah, it seems like it would have been something like that. So, okay. Any other shouts for articles here? I'm trying to think of other ones, but I think that's mostly what I had.
I'll say Notes interview with Obo is pretty enlightening. Shout you out for that.
Enlightening.
Enlightening. Illuminating.
I'm just thinking about enlightening as like it opened up your brain.
Expanded my horizons, dude.
Expanded how you thought about life. That's what an interview with Obo does.
No, he was honestly like. Obviously, it helps that he had a lot of really good answers and in-depth material. But I thought it was just you had to set him up for him to actually swing the bat there. So good job.
Thanks. Not to toot my own horn here, but the long form piece on Grim when he joined Liquid was honestly like not just a pleasure to write, but like the sort of perspective that I got from some of the past players and in-game leaders he'd played with when he was coming into Liquid was also just, I think it made for a really good read just because to the majority of people outside of North America, he was a pretty unknown quantity. So being able to get the sort of perspective of him coming into Liquid from that was something I wanted to share with people. So yeah. If you haven't read that, you can look it up as I think it's Rise of the Reaper, Grimtail. So you can look that up if you guys are interested in that.
I like that one.
That is good. One last thing. I didn't know where to put this, but I guess it's a story. Is basically the whole. I guess like Mira posted the story, but it was more like ESIC and the admin,
Meow?
like Mihao putting together all the coaching band stuff. I think that
I
was
was going to reference this in the next topic.
Okay, then yeah. Let's just move on to that then. Top 3 things we want fixed in 2021 in the scene.
Yeah. So the number one thing I want fixed is the coaches that got banned that are still working for teams. They get punished for cheating and then they just go and do my job. Apparently, that is a solid enough punishment. That's insane to me, but whatever.
Yeah.
So one thing I want fixed is all the cheaters that are currently still signed to teams and still helping teams. That gives the rest of the scene a bad name, in my opinion. Nothing will probably happen to that. That's probably like the number one thing. What else do I want fixed? Can I just say the NA scene?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, you can say it. You can say it.
This seems like at least there's like some plans, at least on the ESL side. I'm still waiting to see what they're doing with that. And yeah, like just waiting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I would say the NA scene is definitely one of the big things that we really need fixed next year, because for people in Europe, it's easy to be like, oh, NA scene's already dead, like it doesn't really matter. But I think they're really missing the fact that if the NA scene dies, then you're also losing like an entire region's worth of like a fan base that pays for merchandise, that goes to events, that is like a general consumer of product in the industry. So like you don't want to lose that, even if you think that the NA scene is dead. So it's definitely something that people should be considering and something that we should really be trying to fix next year for sure. One thing I want to say is, please, for the love of God, fund ESIC so that they can actually investigate stuff with like into match fixing and actually deal with this ridiculous string of matches and players that we've had in North America this year, especially in MDL.
Yeah, like this isn't a backhanded thing or anything, but ESIC kind of said they were gonna come out with the match fixing stuff, and I feel like they just opened a can of worms in that they realized oh wait, we said 2 weeks, but we need way more time to go through all of this. So like so I agree with Note that however if you want to donate to them personally or just like with funding or like if there's going to be a group funding effort or anything like that, I like try to what ESIC is doing is so integral to the integrity of the scene that it would be in all of our best interests to make sure that they keep doing what they're doing. And I think speaking about, I guess, orgs in the space that are adjacent to the game, like I think something that could be fixed would be a players association that actually
Yep.
is solidified and good. I think that CSPPA's results this year have been, for lack of a better word, disgraceful. And I think that what they've like their attempts at unionizing players has shown to be way too top heavy in their efforts, and it just like it's not a union or a players association in my eyes. Players association is a looser term, but it's not that in my eyes if the guy on the 18th best team in the world has never been contacted in I'm speaking about vanity here, like I don't see how that makes any sense that it can be anything of the sort or for the players if people are not involved in this. I think, and I don't think, and I want to like, as opposed to just complaining about this, I want to just kind of offer a little solution. Just have everybody that wants to be a part of it just sign up to a mailing list and actually deliver on the newsletter or mailing list and like get response. Like this should be just a group Discord or something like this. I don't think the administrating aspect of this should be as hard as it's being made out to be. Like why are only 12 players feel like they're involved in this? Like why do we keep hearing more and more about how certain people aren't contacted, or even players on the same team as a guy that's in it not know what's going on? Like people need to like get these emails or Twitter. It should just be a newsletter. Like I think that's the easiest way to do it. So
They also have to solve their conflict of interest issue with the fact that they're getting funded by a tournament organizer. Like it just doesn't make any sense. The fact is that as a union, it should be their members that are chipping in a portion of their monthly salary to fund the union as a whole, so that they're not biased in any sense from one tournament organizer to another. That's how a traditional union operates. It just doesn't make any sense for ESL to be paying X amount for them to participate in a tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So like this isn't just some like nebulous problem that can't be fixed. There's very real answers out there, and I would hope that CSPPA or maybe some new founded body in the upcoming year can do that, because there's real problems in the scene for players that need to be addressed, and what's gone on so far has just been everything short of that. So Mix, what else? What anything else you want to see fixed?
Lands.
Just fix the coronavirus, please.
Yeah, just fix the coronavirus. Yeah. I don't know why ESL hasn't done that yet.
They clearly want Valorant to succeed over CS. That's why.
Why has Valve not fixed COVID-19? Let's have a group effort
here.
What'll
fix it? The International Counter-Strike Edition, of course.
But for real though, I am excited to hopefully see Lands come back in at least studio environments. I think that'll really help the scene.
Yeah.
Caricature was announced to be played without a crowd this year as well, this coming year as well, right? So even that will be better than, Yeah,
we'll see if it holds up. Hopefully it does, but
I will say on that note, I hope to see less event saturation next year, but it's probably unlikely. But
it's already been scheduled.
It's very unlikely. But the fact is that the number of events we had back to back this year just made it extremely taxing as like a general viewer to keep up with every single event and every single match. Whereas like before, at least when we had LANs, I was invested in basically every single event that was happening because they all had some form of a stake to them.
Yes.
Whereas like I have an interview with Elma Putty that's going to come out soon, perhaps tomorrow, where he basically says that like Genji, when they were playing these events, like they all blended together. If it wasn't an RMR event, there is zero distinguishing factors between an IEM something, an ESL something, a DreamHack something, or a Blast something. The only thing that changed was whether it was an RMR event or not. And like when you have something like that, you're just not going to have players that are as interested or invested in trying to be the best in that given event.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like when you just see like the fact that events overlapped also is
Yeah.
just that's like I think one of the best things about LAN that you can't play two events at once when you're at a LAN. So yeah, I would want that to be fixed as well. Pronogo, what are some things you would want to see fixed in the upcoming year?
Well, the problem is that everything that I would want to shout out that hasn't already been mentioned is related to Valve doing something, and Valve are making a lot of money doing nothing. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. But I will say that I would really like to see some map pool changes. I would like Vertigo out of the map pool because it's a
Oh, that's a good
disgraceful
fix.
map. I fucking
Yes.
hate it. And nobody likes actually casting it. I don't think even people like playing it. Get it out. Aside from that, let's talk about I don't know. I think map pools are really big because they connect the actual players who are both playing and watching, like the casual audience who are playing and watching. They connect those to the pros, and I think when the pros so when you go pro in a game, there's a portion of the fun that you're having that gives way to like you have to take it serious, and so some part of the fun goes away. But all of the fun shouldn't go away. I mean, we are playing games here, so even though it's a serious career and you're taking it seriously and you're giving it your all, like when the pros are not having that much fun because of a weapon imbalance like the Krieg last year, or because of a shitty map like Vertigo, then that's going to be in a position where it's going to impact the result. I mean, to the same degree, if the broadcast talent aren't having fun casting or drawing storylines from Vertigo or some other map, or because of the Krieg or because of the UG or whatever the case may have been last year, that's also going to impact on the quality of the broadcast, and that's directly related to the game. And the only people that can handle that are Valve. Like Valve are the only people who with the remit to edit that at any respect. So I would just say I hope Valve pays a bit more attention to the esports side of things. Be that by having those map pool changes every now and then, hopefully having the majors be a little bit more well integrated into the scene in that sense. Obviously we got unlucky this year, we didn't have any, but we'll have to wait and see how that happens. So yeah, just hopefully Valve pays more attention to the esports scene. We love you, Valve, even though you hate us.
Vertigo Mirage.
Just for context, Vertigo replaced Cash in the map pool on March 28th, 2019.
Yep.
That was the last map pool change we had. Like,
Yeah.
that's almost 2 years ago at this point. And that's sort of like having no change to that for that long is just stuff is going to get stale after a while. And I think we're with the event saturation is not helping. It's not
If the online never run the perfect era to just change out 3 fucking maps. Like, give me something interesting to do, please.
Yeah.
Please, Valve. Why? Why do you hate me?
Yeah.
Why do you make me play Vertigo and Mirage for an entire year on online?
Yeah.
Fuck those maps.
Also, as a small addendum to the hopefully North American CS gets better next year, I want more local lens and more funding for local lens in North America.
I probably wouldn't hang on that too much until 2022, but I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the COVID stuff. I think Nerd Street was doing a really good job with their championship series or the NCS that they were putting, like the different locations. Like they had like a Chicago or like a LA or SoCal one, I remember, and then they had their Philly one as always. And I think that the thing is that the America's so expansive, and it's like I don't think people realize how big it is until they're really here. That it's really hard to just like drive from one end to the other. So to have it in different places, I gotta give Nerd Street a lot of props for the fact that they were putting that together. Hopefully they can continue that whenever COVID subsides. So that would be a really cool fix too. Okay, let's actually end this on a lighter note here. We are gonna talk about the question of the week, which is simply, why do you still love CSGO and keep coming back to it?
For me, it's just like the perfect blend of like simplicity, but like a lot of strategy. So like I look at Valorant, and I don't like like different characters. I don't like how much that can change a game from like game to game. I don't like how each character has like so many different abilities, and I feel like that can change a lot. And like you get so much like free information in Valorant, it seems, via like drones and shit, or
cameras.
Cameras, whatever. And so CS is like the perfect blend of like everyone having like equal utility, and like skill being like a large part of the game, but strategy and like macro and stuff still being a big part of it, and still being something you have to really master in order to actually be like a good team. So for me, it's just the perfect blend of pure skill, but also strategy. That's, at least for me, easy to understand via utility.
Yeah, I think having the strategic base as like foundation of the game makes it always interesting to watch, because there's always going to be iteration upon iteration of what's happening in the game. Right now, like, you can see stuff getting a bit repetitive because there's been no map pool changes, but when those come in, then you're also going to see like constant evolution in the way teams are playing. And with that, like, you have different bans that come in from teams. You have like a whole different approach to certain things. And so the game to me just stays fresh regardless. Like, when you have, even when there aren't any changes per se coming in, teams will find a different way to approach something.
Mm-hmm.
Players will like change the entire dynamic. Like, Simple does not follow the rules of Counter-Strike in that sense. Like, he will break it if he needs to. And those sort of things will always keep the game interesting. And as a viewer, it just adds that additional value to me to be able to always be entertained by something like that. So yeah, I would say the fact that the game always stays fresh and you can always, like, there's always some entertaining mechanic to watching a game. I've recently started like getting more into chess, and even when I'm playing chess, I'm thinking like, this feels like Counter-Strike sometimes in the way like some moves are planned out, and some like my bishop is lining up across the board. It feels like an op scoped in or something from Ticket. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head for some reason. But like, that's what I mean. It's always interesting.
Yeah, I think that the level that we've reached with Counter-Strike in terms of people's skill and diversity and strategy makes nearly every matchup interesting to me. And I think the game is like perfectly interactive with each other in that I watch, like, even compared to a real sport, like my favorite real sport, like ball sport, is basketball. And when I think about the game, there are like it's 5-on-5, but there's only one ball. And so you really just have to focus in on what the guy with the ball is doing and the guy that's on the ball. And there's more strategy beyond that. Like, I was actually going to be an NBA analyst for a while out of college, but I, like, with Counter-Strike, there is 5v5, everybody has a gun, which means everybody has a ball. Like, everybody can do something at any given time. The onus is on the person in the server or the strategy or whatever. And there's like just so many variables in it that even though it's the same maps and, like you said, like, there's only like a few pieces of utility and guns or whatever, it always feels like there's some way that things are possible. And even though like Henry G will say like, oh, all right, looks like this round's done and dusted after after the first opening pick or something like that, like, it's never over. It's never over till the last guy dies. And I think that's always just like the most interesting thing about the game, is that there's so much variety in terms of how people play and how teams like to game plan and how they like to counter each other. And when it's interactive Counter-Strike, it's just the best. And I don't think there's really any game that's like that out there. Even in Valorant, it feels like you're just sometimes out of a round before you can even get in the round because of some set of utility that does stuff. And in CS, that's kind of true, when a strategy is really good for the opposing team, but there's always a chance to shoot yourself out of a situation, and it always leads to just crazy moments that it's why CS is a game that you want to watch the whole journey of the game, as opposed to just looking at the end result, because you don't really know how it happened until you watch the clutches that happen and the 2v2s that broke down one way or another. I just think that it always has so much to offer.
I will say I am interested to see how like Valorant develops, because I feel like a lot of the teams that are in Valorant at the moment don't really know what to do with strategy. Like, I feel like that just carries over from their time in CS. Like, the only team that I feel has a good base of in-game leaders is 100 Thieves with Steel and Nitro, that I feel like will actually progress and actually think beyond just how do I play this current round and shit like that. I feel like most of the other teams are pretty basic in their strategy, like they were in Counter-Strike. But yeah, like, I just love, like, I can kind of compare it to like American football. Say like, CT side and defense, you have like your base defaults on CT side, like in American football, you have like your base coverages, like cover 2, Tampa 2, cover 3, things like that. And you'll have like your normal defaults on CT side. And then you'll have ways to go beyond that. You'll have like certain aggressive picks you go for. And, you'll kind of disguise your rounds to kind of disguise that like aggressive pick that you're going for, make it look like a default. And that's kind of like how an NFL team would blitz, for example. On offense, you kind of have like a similar thing with like how you use your nades at the start of a round to set yourself up. And that's kind of like how you would, kind of
Like
start your round via
formations,
formations, passing routes, stuff like that. So I even watched like a ton of like American football stuff just to see how like coaches think about the game and how they set up their own systems. And I find that you can apply a lot of it to CS.
Mm-hmm. Prodogo, what makes you come back?
I gotta say, I've really sort of dedicated my time to two esports in my life. One of them is Counter-Strike, and the other one is Brood War, the original StarCraft, the good one, not the shit one. So what I have to say about those two games that really gets me is the reason why I draw the comparison is both of them have an incredible mechanical element to them where raw skill, like the aim in Brood War would just be like micro, being able to move your units around, and the strategic elements of Counter-Strike would be more like your unit composition, your timings, and your build order and stuff like that. So the way that the two combine for me is what really is like, that's what I would always aspire to be as a player, is the fact that when I see a really like mechanical aim god, maybe I'll never get to his level, but because of the way that the maps are designed, because of the way that the game is designed, I can just position myself in a way and I can make that guy who's way better than me mechanically look like an idiot just because I positioned myself in the right spot. And the fact that Counter-Strike is a game where even at the pro level, you can be making like really, really good decisions. Somebody else can still at that pro level make you look stupid just by virtue of them making a better decision or a quick, snap read in the situation. That is the most compelling viewing experience for me. It's not just like making other people look dumb, but it's the fact that like you're elevating the entire material just by virtue of playing way higher than anybody necessarily would expect, playing, essentially where you're peaking at. Those are the memorable moments. You don't even have the opportunity to peak in this way in other games. It's not even there. So Mauisnake, you were saying earlier, like you don't know if there's another game that has this stuff like Counter-Strike does. Well, spoiler alert, there isn't. I don't know if there ever really will be either. I'm not saying that Counter-Strike can't be solved or it can't be figured out and you can't make anything better. I think it is a glass ceiling in that way, but it's a pretty high glass ceiling. Like it's up there and it's really difficult to get past it. So that's why I keep coming back. It's just that awesome sort of viewer spectacle mixed with the idea that multiple playstyles can still find success, and that's what makes you want to keep watching, is like which one's going to win out in a particular matchup.
I got to bring it back to NIP. They always do it pretty well, and then the top teams just make them look foolish sometimes. So it's kind of like what you're saying there.
Yeah, NIP would be the equivalent of a team on defense that just like never fucking blitzes and just plays like man to man every single fucking round.
Yep.
Like every single play.
They're just the zone.
And like that can work to like a certain extent because you're kind of covering like your base, but eventually teams are going to find a way to beat you.
Mm-hmm. I think that was really well put by all of us. Great. That was a great note to end on, but we will end with one more, which is what are your guys' end of the year plugs? So, no, what's your plug? What's coming out for you? I think you said something earlier.
Yeah, I have an interview with Alma Putty coming out likely tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely before the new year. So just keep an eye out on HLTV for that. And then I should have a feature piece sometime in the new year as well that I can't actually talk about yet, but that will be there at some point as well.
Cool. Mix.
Right.
What you got?
Follow my Twitter. Oh, wait. Don't do that. Can't do
that. Yo, happy birthday, by the way.
You should just tell people, because I don't know. I mean, people that do follow you should know what happened. Why did your Twitter get
I just
suspended?
wanted to put in my fucking birth date, dude. And I put in my birthday, 1998, and I forgot I made the shit when I was 11 in 2009. And then I instantly, as soon as I hit accept, I got locked out of my fucking account. And so now I'm still waiting. I should get it back and just have to delete everything before I made the age of 13, and it should be fine. But I'm just waiting on that.
All right, so follow your Twitter though.
Yeah, once it comes back.
It for later. Yeah.
All right. Pronogo, what's your plug? What you got coming?
There'll be another video interview in my series of video interviews coming out probably tomorrow. It's going to be with Scrawny, so stay tuned for that. Aside from that, just check out Elo Heaven with Vu. It's my talk show with him. We mostly, honestly, I kept thinking we were going to get really into the weeds with games and stuff because I know he can talk about them a lot, and I was watching them all, so I had some stuff to say. But even then, we still ended up just mostly bantering and like talking shit. So if you need more talking shit podcasts because By the Numbers somehow didn't satisfy you, that's one for you. So that's it. That's my plug.
All right, my final plug of the year is that I'm gonna start up a little Twitch series where I feel like something that I need to work on the most is like is the history of the game. So I'm gonna work chronologically from like the first CSGO tournaments in 2012, and I'm just gonna watch the VODs back. And it's gonna be the series will be called In the Green Room with Mauisnake, because it's essentially what it's like to sit with me when I'm just like watching games live, tournaments and things like that. So if you guys are interested in seeing some of the historical matches and just having fun, having a drink, chilling out, tune in.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm not trying to play. Like I tested out playing from here and streaming, and I'm gonna be real. I don't really love playing with 100 ping every day, but I respect people that do that grind. But I'd rather just watch old games. And I feel like if you're interested in reliving the history or maybe experiencing it for the first time, which I'm gonna be doing for a lot of the games, then tune into my Twitch, and that'll start tomorrow.
I don't even think I've played 10 pugs total this year, like 10 actual games with Counter-Strike.
I'm ruined now because I was in the UK for 2 months with 10 ping, and I was literally like, I don't know if you guys saw the Faceit stats I had, but I had above a 2.0 KD, like 30 kill average.
You had 30 kills average.
I had a 30 kill average with 2.0 KD, and I was like, this is so easy. Like, I understand why people like playing this game like a lot now again. And I'm just like, now I'm back in Hawaii, and I'm like, okay, I just don't want to really touch Faceit pugs because my elo's like a little bit higher now, and I don't want to
Hawaii 10 mans.
experience it with 100 ping, you know? So yeah, but I'll just be
You're
watching
probably the
games.
best player in Hawaii, at least. That's like something, right?
I know for a fact I am. No gloating, but I know for 100% fact I'm the best player in Hawaii. Yeah.
You didn't get the holy grail combination of 10 ping and playing against UK players as well.
When you queue, you'll play in the Netherlands a lot, but that's just like right across the ocean, I guess. Whatever, like that between England and the Netherlands. It is the ocean.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
They call that
channel.
Yeah.
Is it a channel? It's pretty. It's like
I have no idea.
whatever.
Channel or an inlet?
Whatever
Like
the
that?
fuck it's called, doesn't matter.
I
It's
mean,
water. Okay.
I finally had lower ping in a server than people playing against me, and I felt like, oh my god, like I literally have been fundamentally playing the game by peeking, like instead of holding angles a lot of the time, and I was finally able to hold angles. I mean, I played on LAN a couple times when I was in America, but like it's just like I can hold angles online. Like it just felt unreal. So that's why I'm doing. That's kind of why I'm doing this series. Also, I just think it's gonna be fun to kick back and just watch some old VODs like that. So. Yeah, it'll be banter and things like that. So yeah, that's gonna be it for us here. Episode 10 is completed. But as always, be sure to like, subscribe. If you guys didn't know at this point, you guys can listen to this on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want to support. It's not mandatory, but you can submit questions like who's the guy? Whatever. Like the question in the middle of this one. Fursock. Yeah, Fursock. Our biggest supporter, Fursock, has been submitting questions a lot of the time under different usernames, but I mean, be like him, submit more questions. I mean, it's more content for us to talk about, more things for us to shoot the shit about. So get those questions in, or if you donate more, we'll come up with some special rewards too. So enjoy. I hope you guys have enjoyed. This has been 2020 for It's Server Time, and I think we've done a good job, guys, and I appreciate all the listeners out there too.